Guys to kind of get a feel for what it's like to go into the second half of a ball game. We haven't had that yet, and so the plan is that to try to take them into the third quarter to kind of see how we handle the adjustment from the first half to the second half.
Are you glad they're going up against defending Super Bowl champion? Give you a good challenge.
Well, you know, those last two has been a good challenge for us too, but it's the third preseason game, and obviously they are who they are, and you know, we're looking forward to it.
David, is Laramie Tunsil back today?
He is not back. He is here, but he is not back, and he's not ready to practice yet.
Going to meetings and things?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
David, Shaq was playing well into the fourth quarter. Shaq Lawson was playing well in the fourth quarter of the game on Saturday. What are you seeing from him? Is there more you need to see out of him?
Well, not just him, but all of those guys, you know. And again, I'm going to go back to the competition that those guys are having in there. I mean, you know, sometimes those guys are in there and then they're taken out because Bobby's going in and out with those guys. They're trying to get a really good evaluation of them. And, you know, sometimes they get in the game and they get into a little flow, and then all of a sudden you're out of the game and then you're back in the game. And sometimes that gets frustrating for those guys. But for the most part, he's been doing great just like those other guys have been doing.
David, I know you said that the COVID vaccination is a personal choice, but how comfortable do you feel in general with your team's vaccination?
Well, I feel real comfortable with it. I mean, it's been very high. I believe we're only got maybe 4 or 5 guys that have not done it yet, and I mean, between now and whenever they could do it. Obviously, there's a waiting period to do that, but we feel good about it.
David, after you had a chance to see the tape, can you say anything that stood out to you positively about the offense on Saturday now?
Well, let me go to the negative. I know you said positive, but there was a negative that I want to make sure. We were 0 for 10 on third down, which was, you know, not acceptable. And then a couple of those were third and shorts. The positive thing, the most positive thing, is which has something to do with us still having a chance to win the ball game with 4 turnovers. We did not turn the ball over. And that was the most positive thing about coming out of the game offensively.
The defense gave up a 50% allowed on third down, including 50% when the starters were in. Were you worried about that? Or is that okay?
I'm not worried about it, but that's not good. And the other thing, too, is they were 2 for 2 in the red zone when they got down there. And basically, we've had some issues in the first 2 in the red zone and not getting touchdowns. And obviously, the opponent we just played were 2 for 2 getting down there. But it's not a concern because basically what happens when you play these preseason games, we're not game planning them, so to speak. So we're just going out there and we're playing them. We practice against each other. We practice against what we do offensively and defensively. And you go out there and then you see some things that you hadn't seen before that you normally would see during a regular season. And I think that has a lot to do with that also.
After the game, you said you thought that it had a lot to do with the blitzes that Dallas was throwing at you guys on third down. The reason why you guys didn't have success was you wanted to look at the tape. Is that what the tape showed?
Well, it wasn't just the blitzes. It was the fact that we had some mental errors. We had a couple of mental errors in there that normally wouldn't happen, that would have taken care of that. And quite frankly, what happened is we hadn't seen as much. And as I said, we didn't practice for them to do that. We practiced against blitzes with ourselves. And basically, it wasn't anything that was unusual. It was just that we had a couple of mental errors, you know, and they did a good job. But we had a couple of things called that basically was tough against what we were doing.
That was that Nico Collins should be fine and could have played Saturday. You expect him to practice today?
I do.
David, one more question on Laramie. Does he still have to be officially activated off that COVID list, or has that happened?
That hasn't happened yet.
Is that today, then, after the transaction?
Not necessarily today. Mm-hmm.
You know, that was the first time you got to see the tight ends together on Saturday. I mean, what did you see after looking at the film on them?
Well, it's what I thought it would be. You know, those guys at the point of attack, you know, are guys that are going to be a big part of our run game. And basically we've had some success and been as probably as consistent in a run game as we had anything on offense. They're a big part of doing that. And I was glad to see that.
You know, with the run game that y'all are trying to do, I mean, when you're weighing these decisions, how do you evaluate how many tight ends, whether you carry a fullback? Like, how does that influence what you want to do in the run game?
Well, what influences how many we carry is just how guys are playing. And basically what we're going to end up doing from a roster standpoint, the best guys that give us the best chance to win, those are the guys we're going to play with. If it happens to be at a tight end position, a receiver position, whatever position that is, then you make that decision based on that.
Coach, speaking of the run game, is there anything different that you saw against the Cowboys that did not happen because you guys had a little bit of a drop-off in the run game?
Well, I think that was more so of just how we were willing to approach the game to do some things we do differently on offense that we hadn't done before. I don't think it had anything to do with the fact that it was who we were playing. It just had something to do with the things that we were calling and what we were trying to see. And, we were trying to get the ball in certain people's hands. We wanted to see certain guys in certain situations. And so basically, Tim called the game basically to kind of evaluate some of our personnel.
With how much of an asset Tyrod can be with his legs, is there kind of an element of the running game that you guys just aren't really deploying in the preseason?
Well, no, that's basically that happens. We're not asking him to run, but we know that when he's back there with the ball in his hands in a passing situation, that we know that he's mobile enough to be able to get out of trouble, to keep plays alive. And the one thing that defensive out here, Lovey talk about this all the time, is that the worst thing you want to happen to you when you got everybody covered downfield is for a mobile quarterback to be able to get out of there and get a first down for you because you've got everybody else covered.
So you don't really want to use him in the run game undesigned?
Well, we do have plays in our offense that are designed to do that, but not necessarily, and that's a game plan deal. That's a game plan. Depends on who we're playing.
David, what do you think about using fullbacks in general, and from your time with the Ravens and other teams, and just what do you think of the tight ends that have played some fullback for you so far?
Well, that's a multi thing to be able to have our tight ends who are basically, when you take them off the line of scrimmage, are like another fullback. And so we're fortunate that we've got a number of guys that are able to do that. And you've seen us do that with Pharaoh a few times. You see us do that with Anthony because they're big bodies. They understand in the run game from a fullback standpoint what we want to do, and it's an advantage to be able to have that in your offense.
David, what do you want to see this week? I know you talk about competition, but as you get closer to the season, what do you want to see this week?
Well, I want to basically see how we can sustain things during basically for a whole half with basically the same guys in there when we're playing. We haven't done that yet. We basically had a kind of pitch count for certain guys, and hopefully in this game right here we can get a little bit more consistency and going into the second half with the same guys and seeing how the consistency develops with those guys.
Real quick, I just wanted to ask you about, is there any update on Anthony Miller as far as his status in this?
No update.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
You're welcome.